It's the International Soccer Preview. We are Soccer Files Canada. Welcome to Series 25, looking at the players of Euro 2024. This episode is looking at the players of Georgia. Here we go. Hello and welcome again to the International Soccer Preview by Soccer Files Canada. I'm Kevin and we continue Series 25 on the groups and players of the 2024 Euro Cup, actually wrapping it up with this episode. This episode covers Georgia's players and is actually part 2 of the player media cast. Here we look at the selections. In part 1, we made a list of the candidates and introduced them and their likelihood of making the squad. And there is a link to that, part 1, in the show notes. Part 2 here, this episode will be divided into 2 sections. In section 1, we look over the list that we compiled in part 1 to see who made it and who didn't. And in section 2, we summarize surprises in the selection and review injuries. Let's begin then. And just before we do section 1, we'll take a look at the preliminary squad, or the release of the squad information. So on May 22nd, actually Georgia released a 26-man final roster. So no preliminary squad there. And however, there was one change after that. One of the veterans, after being announced as one of the starters, said he was not going to play in the cup. He would just watch the cup as a fan. Go to Germany and watch the cup as a fan. So he was replaced by another player. But that was the only change, and that 26-man squad announced fairly early on basically stands. Okay, well, let's look and see who is on it. And we begin with manager Willy Sagnol, the French international player, managing, and he was not fired before the tournament, so we will consider him as having been selected. For goalkeepers, we have 2 definite candidates. The first one is Georgi Mamardashvili, and we expect him to be the starter. And we also have Gurgi Loria as a definite candidate, both of those selected for the cup. In fact, we only had 3 candidates on the list, and all of them were selected. The third was likely candidate Luka Gugesashvili, and he was also named to the squad. So no one new brought in there, and very much as expected, as we're going to see for most of the squad here. All right, moving on to central defenders, we begin with captain Guram Kasia, who was selected for the squad, and another definite candidate, Solomon Kvirkvelia, also selected. We had 2 likely candidates as well. Both of them were selected. The first was Luka Lokashvili, and the second was Lasha Devali. So both making the squad there. And then we had 4 possible candidates. The first one was Saba Sazonov, who was not selected, nor were the next 2, Alexander Kalandadze and Iva Gelashvili. Neither of those selected. However, the fourth one, Georgi Gvelesiani, was selected for the squad. That's just 5 central defenders. That's enough. However, the only real surprise here, well, I have him in the possible but unlikely category on the YouTube visual there, but actually he was a player seemingly off the squad. Jamal Tabidze had not played the last 11 matches over the period, and just one start from the start of 2023, right at the beginning there, and not selected for the last 11 matches. So Jamal Tabidze, a surprise selection. Okay, so that brings us to 6 central defenders. Let's move on to left backs. And we have a no definite candidate here, but a likely candidate in Levan Shengelia, who was selected for the squad. We had a possible candidate in Irakli Azarovi, but he was not selected. So just one left back here for Georgia. Over to the right back position, we had more candidates here, and we had definite candidate Otar Kakabadze, who was selected for the squad. He's actually coded as a right midfielder, but played as a right back as well. Also, we had a likely candidate in Georgi Gocholashvili, and he was selected also. So two right backs, perhaps one of them would fill on the left side if Shengelia were to be injured or unavailable. We did have a possible candidate here, Vladimir Mamuchashvili, and he was not selected for the squad. Up we go to the midfield, and we had a couple of players who were versatile midfielders. We kind of created the category for them because they were all over the field, especially the first one, Otar Kiteshvili, and he was selected for the squad. Both of these are definite candidates, and it's certainly no surprise. It would have been shocking if they had not been selected. The other is Georgi Kochorashvili, who was selected. So we'll expect to see them probably as starters there. Although they did only start just slightly more than half the game. So maybe I'm speaking too soon there. Anyway, on to defensive midfielders. And I see I made a mistake in the graphics here. The definite candidate there should be Nika Kvekveshkiri, and I put the wrong name in part one there. So there he is, Nika Kvekveshkiri, and he is a definite candidate who was selected for the squad. Also, we had two possible candidates here. Well, Anzor Mekbabishvili, who was selected for the squad. And I think we made some change in the next one. We did have a possible candidate in Jabba Kankava, but on May 22nd, he announced that he would not be playing in the tournament. So I think we did cover that in part one and moved him down to the retired section. So Jabba Kankava was named to the final squad, but as soon as it came out, announced his intention to not play. So he has been replaced and will meet his replacement soon. Okay, on to central midfielders. No definite or likely candidates here, but four possible candidates, only one of them making it. So we'll look at the candidates. We had, first of all, Luker Gagnidze. The second was Georgi Aberjania. The third was Gabriel Sigua. And the fourth was Sandro Altunashvili. And I'll give you a second to guess which one it is. Okay, time's up. It's the one at the bottom of the list, Sandro Altunashvili, the only one of those four to be named to the squad. However, Gabriel Sigua is the player who replaced Jabba Kankava. So not selected for the original squad, but called back in to replace him, to replace Kankava. So Gabriel Sigua did make the squad after all, and we move on to right midfielders. We had no candidates for left midfielders, but for right midfielders, we had two definite candidates. The first one, Georgi Chakvedadze, who was selected for the squad. And the second one, also a definite candidate, Zurika Davitashvili, also selected for the squad too. Those two also play as attacking midfielders as well. On we go to central attackers, central attacking midfielders. And we actually moved a lot of players out of this position, the versatile Kiteshvili and the two players we just introduced as right midfielders. All of those coded as attacking midfielders. That left us just with a couple of players who seem to be off the squad. I think I forgot to put them on the list when we did part one, but it doesn't matter because neither of them made it. And so we have no play. Oh, I did put them on the list there. Two retired players, but we won't deal with them because they were not selected. And over to left attackers we go, where we see definite candidate Kavitska, Kvaratskhelia. I remember struggling with this name in part one. Kavitska, Kvaratskhelia. Anyway, a definite candidate. Perhaps the announcers on the game will have practiced it better than I did here. We also have, and by the way, he did make it. I won't suffer you through me trying to pronounce it again. The other one, Georgi Tsiteshvili, was a possible candidate, and he also was selected for the final squad. Over on the right attacking side, just one candidate here at the possible level. It's Saba Lobzanidze, and he was selected for the squad as well. So all of the candidates on the list, so left and right attackers, were selected, kind of pointing to the lack of options really that Georgia has. It's a small country, so they don't have a lot of players, a large pool of players to choose from. On we go. No secondary strikers for Georgia, but we do have 4 candidates here as forwards. 2 of them definite. The first one, George Mikodadze, was selected. So was the other definite candidate, Budu Zivzivadze. Both of those selected for the squad. The 2 possible candidates, the first one was George Kvilitaya, and he was selected. However, the second one, David Volkovi, not selected for the squad. Okay, that brings us to the end. Those are 26 players that we have. Let's review surprises and injuries. And in fact, this is a very short section in the case of Georgia. We have no notable non-selections, so all of our likely and definite candidates were selected for the squad. We do have one surprise inclusion, and that is central defender Jamal Tabidze, brought in from the cold, really. He had been off the team for the last 11 matches, but was selected ahead of various other candidates. No new players, so all of the players on the squad were players we had covered in part one, and no injuries to report, which is wonderful for Georgia because a small team like that can't really afford injuries. We only have the player who announced his withdrawal. That's Jabba Kankava. So they lose a veteran in him. He was 38 years old with 101 caps and 10 goals. Anyway, felt himself that he wasn't suitable for the squad. So the only loss there, I suppose we could put him as a notable non-selection there, although he pulled himself out. Okay, that brings us to the end, not only of Georgia here, our look at Georgia players, but to the end of this series. And we are doing the 2024 Copa America series as well, so you can catch us over there. But I hope this information on the teams and players for the 2024 Euro Cup helps you to enjoy your watch of the Cup more. We would like to thank Mike Tripak, Make Sound Music, and Pixabay for the wonderful background music called Dance 90s accompanying this mediacast.